Hey everyone, I'm Marbozir and welcome to Age of Wonders 3. So, Age of Wonders 3 is one of my most anticipated games of 2014, and since I got a chance to play it before the official release, I will be showing it off on the channel and playing it probably quite a lot. So if you've never heard of Age of Wonders, I can't really blame you, because the last installment of Age of Wonders series, which was Age of Wonders Shadow Magic, was released over 10 years ago. However, Age of Wonders was one of the better games of its type for the time, I would say. So what is Age of Wonders? Age of Wonders is a fantasy-based turn-based strategy with tactical combat. So it's kind of like a cross between Civilization and Heroes of Might and Magic, if you've never seen it before. That doesn't really describe the game accurately, but that's the best comparison that I can come up with. So, the game will have two campaigns, which is the Elven Court and the Commonwealth. I won't be playing those in this video, but I might do them on the channel at some point eventually, probably after the official release. The game also has some scenarios. I won't be playing those right now either. And you can play a random map, which is what I will be doing now. I will explain some of the basics of the game and some of the basic concepts. This is pretty much what this video is for. So, the game has 5 difficulty levels: Squire, Knight, Lord, King and Emperor. I'm definitely not an expert in this game just yet, so I will be playing on Lord, which is kind of the middle difficulty, 3rd out of 5. You can pick one of 4 different map sizes, so extra large, large, medium and small. I think I'll play this one on small or medium. Medium should be fine. And you can pick 2 to 8 players. So if you're playing single player, that's you and 7 AIs. Up to 7 AIs. The medium map works best with 2 to 4 players recommended, so I'll play with 4. You can also pick the map type, which is land, continents or islands. I'll stick with land. And this is one of the more interesting options. You can select game flow, which basically means the game style. Or to explain it better, I'm going to show you the available options. So you can pick the game flow basic, which will give you a powerful army to start with that is ready for battle. So then you will have a game that's more focused on fighting instead of building up an army, since you already start with a strong army. You can change game flow to empire building, which will start you with a settler and a very small army, and you'll have to build up from scratch. And no cities will be present on the map at the start of the game, which I believe includes no independent cities. You can change game flow to adventure, which will give you a considerable army on a map with a few cities. You can also change, and that's it. These are the options available. You can also go with normal, which gives you a standard game. You start with a city and a small army. There's no focus on any specific area of the game. Or you can go with random, if you feel like going with RNG. Not only that, there are a lot of advanced options. You can modify the random map quite heavily. So you can change your starting town, ranging from none. You can start with no city. You can go with random. You can start just with the settler, which is a unit. So this is actually quite interesting. You can start with no city and no settler, I believe. You can start with a very big city right at the start on turn 1. You can also change your starting units. You can change starting distance between various players, so you can actually tell the game to start all the players very close to each other with big armies, and you can start fighting right away. I love this kind of advanced setup. You can change roads, roaming units, there are a lot of options, various treasures on the map. You can select how many cities the game will have, how many dwellings the game will have, how many resource structures it will have. You can pick none, how many visit structures it will have, and how many treasure structures it will have. You can modify this really heavily. And then you can also modify geography. So you can have a heavily volcanic world that's also blighted, Arctic, and things like that. This can favor specific races, I'll talk about that a little bit later. And you can also modify underground. Or you can tell the game whether it's supposed to have underground or not. So there's a lot of customization, and I really like this. But I'll stick with the defaults. I do believe this will reset back to default. If I restart, let's have a look. Yep, these are defaults. Oh yeah, this is affected by game flow, right. So if you change game flow to empire building, for example, you can see what exactly this means. And you can modify it if you like. So you don't have to guess what any of these options mean. You can see what exactly they mean. I will be playing with normal game flow. So this is all random map setup. It's quite impressive, as you can see. Let's continue. So now I can modify the difficulty level of specific AIs. If I want to do that, it's possible. I can pick between classic turns and simultaneous turns. I personally prefer classic turns, which means everyone will take turns instead of everyone moving at once. That's how I prefer playing personally. You can customize the AIs if you want to. I'm just going to customize myself. And you can also change tactical combat to always auto combat or ask you. The tactical combat is one of the more important parts of the game. I would never set this to always auto combat, but maybe some people would. And there are more rules. You can turn off map exploration, which will start you with the entire map already explored. And you can also turn off city founding, which means you would only be able to capture independent cities. Or just play with the cities that you actually start with. I won't be changing this. I'll keep this on. You can change maximum number of heroes up to 20. The default is 5. And you can also change how many starting skills your hero will have and starting resources. The customization in this game is really impressive, I have to say. I'm very impressed by all these options. So let's actually get started, or in this case we won't get started yet because we have to create our leader. Now there are 3 important things to take into account when creating a leader. So first of all, you have a class. There are 6 classes in the game, which is Archdruid, which is a nature-focused class. There's a Dreadnought, which is engineer, inventor kind of thing. You get access to tanks, guns, battleships and things like that. There's also a Rogue, which is a stealth assassination type of character. There's a Sorcerer, which is a pure magic class. There's a Theocrat, which is a religious-based focused class. So he specializes in things like healing, unit conversion, and things like that. And there's a Warlord, which is a typical warrior kind of dude. And then you also... and class determines most of the skills and abilities that you will have available for research during the game. Most of the skills and abilities that you will be able to research will be tied to the specific class. And they are all unique to that class. Not all of them, however, but more on that later. Each class also has its own class-specific units that you can get access to through research. And these class-specific units are completely independent of the race. Because then you also need to pick your race. There are 6 races in the game: High Elf, Human, Orc, Goblin, Dwarf and Draconian. And the race choice is actually very important. The race determines the race of your starting city and army, as you might have guessed. But each race also has a preferred terrain type, as well as terrain types that they dislike or even hate. And this will determine how well your cities will grow and prosper on various terrain types. And terrain also influences morale and happiness of your units and cities. So this is actually very important, because happiness of your cities, which is determined by the terrain these cities are on, also determines the starting morale value of all your units produced in that specific city. So if your city is very happy, your starting units will have high morale, but if it's unhappy, your starting units will have low morale. Not to mention the cities themselves have a chance of rebellion if their happiness is very low. On the other hand, if your city happiness is very high, you have a chance to get bonus effects like extra gold or production each turn. And morale of units can give you extra damage in combat, or can make your units leave your army in extreme cases. So the race choice is actually quite important, especially if you played around with geography of your map. So if you create a highly volcanic kind of map, for example, then a race that hates that kind of terrain might not do so well on that map. There is terraforming in the game, but you can't do that at the start. You actually have to get some spells to actually do that. Anyway, that's the race selection. There's also one more thing that you have to pick, but I'll pick my own race and class first before I show you that. And the third thing is specialization. So I went to customize leader. These are specialization slots on the right side. There are 8 different specializations in the game. So there are the 4 basic elements: earth, fire, water and air. Then you also have adept, you also have creation and destruction, which are alignment based specializations. So creation has good alignment and destruction has evil alignment. I'll talk about alignments a little bit later. And then you also have expander, which basically allows you to expand and grow your empire quicker, and explorer, which makes you a better scout. And on top of that, you can also have adept and master level of specialization. The master level gives you access to better skills and spells. Because basically, specialization is what determines the remaining skills and spells that you will have available for research. The class determines most of your research, but specializations determine the remaining spells and skills. So you can mix and match all the races, classes and specializations together. Every class can have any of these specializations. And if you want to go for Master Fire, for example, you have to pick Adept first. Then you can also pick Master. So that means if you want to be Master of any of these elements, you have to use 2 out of 3 slots for that. There are a lot of considerations when creating your leader, and this all leads to quite different playstyles. So I have to say I'm really impressed with the amount of customization that's available in the game. Creation and Destruction also have Adept and Master levels. Expander and Explorer do not. So let's see, I think I'll go for... I'm not super experienced in the game yet, so I don't quite know which of these are stronger than others for early game, late game, and things like that. I'll just pick whatever. Let's go for air. I won't pick fire because that seems like something everyone would pick first. So I'll go for Master of Air and maybe grab Expander on top of that, just to be able to expand a little bit quicker. And now I'm going to pick my class and race. So since the game has 2 campaigns, the Elven Court campaign and the Commonwealth campaign, and the Elven Court campaign starts you as a High Elf Rogue, the Commonwealth campaign starts you as Human Dreadnought, I'm going to pick something other than that. Which means I might go for Sorcerer, that sounds fun, and I could go for Orc. I'm pretty sure you get to play with Draconians pretty early in the Elven Court campaign. Let's go for Orc. So I'm going to be an Orc Sorcerer. You can also modify your appearance, but I don't care about that part all that much. However, there's quite a lot of customization. So you can pick your different head shape, you can pick your skin color, hairstyle, eyebrows, hair color, things like that. If you like playing with these things, there's quite a lot of customization. You can change the scene in the background, this looks quite nice. You can even change your posture. There are some really funny ones. Yeah, I think I'm okay with this. And you can change your clothes. There are only 4 options. You can rename your leader, so I'm going to name him after myself. Marbozir the Explosive. Well, seeing how I didn't pick fire, that's not entirely accurate, but okay. You can change your color. So let's see, let's grab some orange with some red. Nope, not this one. Dark red. That's not too bad. And a symbol. Yeah, okay, this is fine. So let's actually start playing, shall we? That would be nice. But as you can see, there's a lot of customization in this game. I'm really impressed with all these options. And from the little that I played already, The different classes and races can lead to quite different playstyle, and even the specializations can lead to very different playstyle, especially in combat. So, this is the game. I'm going to talk a little bit about the basics. So, the game has two basic resources, gold and mana, which are fairly self-explanatory, I guess. Gold is used to recruit new heroes, upgrade your city, produce units, and things like that. Most units also require upkeep in gold every turn. If you don't have enough gold to pay, then your units will lose morale and eventually leave your army. So you might want to watch this if you have a huge army. And mana is used for spells. You can also forge items using mana because your actual heroes that lead armies can use items. And mana is also used to pay upkeep for some spells and summoned units. And there's also production. If I go into the city, this is my front city. So before I go into specifics of a city, the victory condition in the game is to take enemy's front city. The front city is the city you start your game with. If you lose your front city, your leader will not be able to resurrect in that city. Because normally, if you lose your leader in combat, this is my leader, he will be resurrected in your front city. If you don't have a front city and you lose your leader, you will lose the game. So the loss condition is losing your front city and then losing your leader in battle. If that happens, then you're out. You lost the game. You don't lose the game just after you lose the front city. You also have to lose your actual leader on top of that. So, let's go into the city. Now, every city has a domain, which is this border that you can see. And all the various resources and structures that you can see on the map provide you with various benefits if they are inside your border. So here we have a water node, which gives me plus 10 mana income, because it's inside my border. Here we have a gold mine, which would give me plus 10 gold, but it's not inside my domain. So I get nothing out of that right now. However, my border will eventually grow and the gold mine will be inside. So every city has production value, in this case that's 35. And production is really simple in this game. Production basically determines the amount of gold and mana that a city can convert into production each turn. So, in other words, if I go to the buildings tab, these are all the tabs. I can produce units, I can get buildings, I can do special actions like raise or plunder, and I can check existing upgrades. If I look at the shrine, for example, the shrine costs 75 gold and 25 mana, which is something I have to pay to actually build it. And because I have 35 production, and this costs a combined total of 100 resources, I need 100 production to actually build this. So since I'm getting 35 production per turn, the shrine will be completed in 3 turns. And if you hover over all of these buildings, you will see effects of all of them. I won't be explaining every single building right now, because that would take a little bit too long. But the shrine, for example, unlocks a new unit, which is the Orc Priest. It also leads to temple and generate mana. What I like to start with is the Builder's Hall, because the Builder's Hall unlocks Settler. I can't actually build a Settler and start my own cities without Builder's Hall. This takes 3 turns, so this is what I like to start with. Now, you usually start with an army, but you can change this in the map setup options, as you probably remember. These are all the units that I have. Now, every unit has morale. You start with normal morale, at least. Well, no, that's actually not true. Your morale is determined by happiness of your city. So, if I go into the city, I can see that my city is currently happy, because it's a front city, I get plus 50 for that. Also because my leader is in the city, I get plus 50 for that too. If I move him out of the city, I will lose that modifier. As you can see now, I no longer get the plus 50 modifier because my leader is not in the city anymore. And this affects various modifiers of the city itself. So if I move my leader back in, I will see that I get 35 production because my base production is 30, and then I get plus 5 because the city is happy. I also get extra growth, plus 45 extra growth because my city is happy. And I do believe I also get some golden mana. Yep. I get extra gold and extra mana every turn because the city is happy. So this is actually very important to keep in mind. As soon as I leave the city with my leader, I lose 5 production, I lose 45 growth, some mana and some gold. And this is mostly affected by the terrain type. So if I look right here, I get 180 happiness because the city is a front city, that's plus 50, and it's on like terrain times 10. That means I have 10 tiles of like terrain inside my domain. That means barrens. You can also see that my race likes barrens, but dislikes Arctic and Blighted, and hates volcanic. I would get negative happiness modifiers if my city had volcanic terrain inside its domain. So this is something to keep in mind. And since your domain will keep growing as your city grows, it's quite possible to actually get extra negative happiness modifiers if you had some dislike terrain just outside of your domain, but then your city grows, gets extra tiles inside its range, and suddenly you lose happiness. It's something to be aware of. Happiness in cities can be incredibly important. So it's very important to keep in mind what your liked and disliked terrains are of your race. Anyway, let's actually start playing. So I started the Builder's Hall, then I'll probably recruit at least one settler to start setting my cities. Hopefully I won't actually need to recruit units for now. You usually start with an army, unless you turn that off in the map setup. Now these are my units. So every unit has quite a lot of stats. These are all various abilities that my units have. So this list can be very long, and it can take you some time to familiarize yourself with all of these things. So let's actually start moving, shall we? There are some units to the south of our city, so we are going to engage those. Now these are all the units that I start with. I have some melee units. This dude is Orc Infantry. Now these are the base stats of my unit. So they have hit points, 45 hit points, they have 28 move points, they have 10 defense, which mostly determines how resistant they are to melee type of damage or physical damage. Not just melee, all physical damage. And resistance, which determines how resistant they are to magical attacks. They also have experience. Each unit can have one of 4 different ranks: Trooper, Veteran, Expert and Elite. And these give you extra stats, as you can see on the tooltip. If this unit was Elite, he would not only get all these modifiers to his base stats, he would also inflict bleeding wounds. So unit experience can be something very important in game. Some of the better units get quite a bit stronger with extra experience. It also costs me 4 gold per turn, and it's a tier 1 unit, which mostly tells me how strong it is at first glance. If it's a high tier unit, you generally know that it's quite strong. And it has 0 base morale. So it's not happy and it's also not unhappy. Morale is usually modified by various events in game as you move around and explore. So I also have some ranged units, I believe. This is a melee unit still. This is a melee unit. I can see that they do 13 damage, physical type of damage. Now this is a mixed unit. So this dude has 10 melee strength or 10 melee damage, but it also has a javelin that it can throw with medium range, and it also has strength 10. But enough talk, let's actually get into combat, and I'm going to show you one of the most fun parts of the game. I actually have to finish this turn to actually do anything. Alright, let's pick research. I guess I'll get into combat a little bit later. So, research is also one of the most important concepts of the game. Most of these items that are available for research are determined by my class, but some of them are determined by my specialization, and I can see that on the tooltip. I can research Lightning Storm, which is a strategic spell, which means you can cast it on the global map and target some units stuck with it, so it's not a combat spell. And I can research this because I'm a sorcerer. Let's see, I can research Domain of Winter, which is again a strategic spell, enchantment, because I'm Adept of Air. So this is not tied to my class, this is tied to my specialization. If I had a fire specialization, this would be a fire spell right now. I can research Summon Wisp, which is one of the class-based units that I talked about when I talked about classes. Each class has specific units that are tied to that specific class, but you have to research them first. So this is one of them. I can summon a Wisp, which will cost me 6 mana per turn in upkeep. And it has all this stuff that you can see. So it has a melee strike with free melee or free physical value and free air value, I believe. That's air type of attack. I can also research basic Seafaring, which is something everyone can research. That's why it says class avatar. This can be researched by everyone. I have sorcery, which increases my casting points. This is the type of ability that every class can research. It increases your casting capabilities. It's just called differently for different classes. You can basically cast more spells per turn with this. And I have some combat spells. So for example, this is a combat spell, a unit enchantment that gives you ability to ignore obstacles and line of sight penalties. But all of this would make more sense if I actually got into combat. Let's see, what do we want to research right now? Let's see. I think I'll go with Summon Wisp actually, or with Sorcery. Yeah, let's go with Sorcery. I got a hero who offered to join me if I pay 100. I'm going to grab him. Now, heroes are similar to leaders, except they don't get resurrected in your front city. If you lose your hero, that's it. They also don't get extra abilities based on research. Your leader does get extra abilities based on some of your research, but your heroes do not. But other than that, they function the same. This is an actual combat unit. One of the more important things about heroes is that they can get abilities as they gain experience that can increase stats of your entire army. So an army led by a powerful hero can become much stronger than it would be without that hero, not just because a hero is a powerful unit on its own. This is our goal for the random map. We have to defeat all rival empires, which, as I said earlier, means we have to take their front cities and then kill their leader. Just taking the front city is not enough. And you also get told that you need to protect your own front city. Let's actually end this turn, that would be nice. And we'll get into combat on the next turn. Now, combat is one of the most fun parts of the game and a game-defining element, in fact. So every time you engage something, you can get into tactical combat. You can auto-resolve, but I won't be doing that, that would be silly. So there are some units down here, protecting the gold mine. Let's attack them with our leader. So let's go into manual combat, and I'll talk about it a bit. So, this is combat, which is hex-based. I can move any of my units when it's my turn. You do not have to move units in specific order. I can pick any of these and move with them in any order I want. I'll let Independence move first. So there are a few really important concepts in combat. The most important one are these green, yellow and orange indicators. This means that I will be able to attack 3 times, 2 times or once, based on where I end my move. So if I move here and end my move on the green tile, that means I would be able to attack 3 times. So I would attack 3 times 10. I have a combat value of 10 with the melee strike. But if I attack while being on the green tile, I will attack 3 times. If I end on the yellow tile, I will attack twice. And if I end my move on orange tile, I will attack once. I can actually throw a javelin, so I can do that instead and target one of these dudes. Now, if I had something blocking my way, I would get a combat penalty. So these obstacles do actually matter, because you get severe combat penalties if you try to throw things over obstacles. You can also get range penalties, which I might be able to show if I grab this guy, for example. So let's see. Yep, right now I'm getting 50% range penalty if I attack these spiders. I also get 50% range penalty if I attack these spiders. So it's best to move a little bit closer and then attack them. So this is one of the more important concepts in combat, and as you noticed, I can actually move multiple times. So I can move here because it's green, then I can pick some other unit, move with that other unit, come back to this one, move this one again, which gives you a lot of flexibility in combat. And there's one more really important concept in combat, which is flanking. I'm not sure if I can actually show you this right now. Actually, yes, I think I can. So every unit has a threatened area, which are basically the 3 hexes in the direction it's facing. So since my unit right now is facing this tile right here, if I turn the camera a bit, I can show that better. So my unit is facing this exact tile that I'm pointing at, which means my threatened area is right here. If I get attacked from behind, or from any hex that's not in my threatened area, that will be a flanking attack. Flanking attacks get +2 bonus damage to all damage types, I believe, and you can't retaliate. Because most melee units can retaliate when you attack them in melee, but if you get a flanking attack, they will not retaliate. There are also some other conditions like stun. If a unit is stunned, it also can't retaliate, but this is something very, very important. Flanking can win or lose battles for you. And there's one more important thing. If you attack a unit, so for example, if I move here, which will not be a flanking attack because this spider right here is facing towards these 3 hexes, so I can't get a flanking attack on this spider, but if I attack the spider from this side, which will not be a flanking attack, but it will force the spider to face in my direction. So right now, the spider is facing in my direction because I attacked him from this side, which means his threatened area is right here, and I can flank it with one of my other units. If I move right here, I will actually get a flanking attack. And I actually did this on purpose to show you one more concept, which is attack of opportunity. If you move past a melee unit, it can get an attack on you. So right now, because I have to go through here, I have to move into this spider's melee range and then move one tile after already being in melee range. The spider will get attack of opportunity at my unit. So it will get a free attack that I can't retaliate to. So unit positioning is incredibly important in the game. So let's attack it right now. And that ends my turn. Actually, no, it doesn't. Right, I can also cast some spells. Now, if you cast spells in combat, like, let's say I can cast Magic Fist, which does 21 damage to target enemy unit. That's pretty damn good. So let's say I want to cast it on the spiders right here. But that will use my hero's turn. I can't move with my hero anymore because he cast that spell. He does have some attacks. So sometimes you might want to actually attack with your hero instead of casting a spell, and obviously casting spells costs mana. I'm done with this turn, so I can do some flanking attacks on the next turn. Right now, yeah, the spiders flanked me from the back, and since they flanked me, I couldn't retaliate. And I got a promotion. See, you get experience for every combat action. And once you get enough experience, your units will get promoted, and you will actually get promoted in the middle of combat. So if I compare this dude, let's see, let's hover over him. He has 13 melee strike. Which unit is that? That's Orc Impaler. These are Orc Impalers. No, I can't compare him. No, this is Orc Spearman. Okay, never mind. But as you could clearly see, he actually got promoted in the middle of combat. So let's attack and kill that spider. Now, since I have my Orc Spearman behind, you can also do ranged flanking attacks. So even though I'm throwing a javelin, that will actually count as flanking attacks. The spiders will turn towards my unit, and if they were still alive, I would be able to attack them from the back. So, as you can see, there's actually a lot of tactical depth to combat, and I really like that. Your positioning in combat is extremely important, and taking advantage of concepts like flanking and retaliation or lack of it can win battles for you. I think this video has been long enough though, so I'm going to continue this game in the next part. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you want to see more Age of Wonders 3. However, I will almost definitely be doing a lot more Age of Wonders 3 since I'm enjoying the game quite a bit. So, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.